Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm going to be showing you 5 different tools that I think are going to be useful for people who are doing their research process for stocks. So, these are just 5 different tools. I hope you find at least one of these useful. And let's just get started. And the first tool of these is simply finviz.com. What Finviz is a website with some financial data, but I think their most powerful thing is the maps, which simply shows you a map, for example, of the S&P 500, right, and how it's been doing in the last day, in the last week, in the last 6 months, etc. And you can also do a map of the world with the largest companies listed in the US stock exchanges, but throughout the world, right? So this is great for looking at an overall view of the markets. However, the screener option is possibly one of my favorite things ever. So, for example, if I want to find stocks, I can filter by any sorts of things, like, for example, the dividend yield. Do they have a high dividend yield over 1%, 2%, etc.? Or are they in a particular sector, in a particular industry, in a particular country where they're based? And you also have fundamental things. You can filter by forward PE, you can filter by return on investments. So if I want to say, for example, I want to find stocks with a net profit margin over 20% with a price to book value of under 1, then all of a sudden it helps me filter out through all of the listed stocks to have way less. And for example, here we still have 11 pages, so you can filter a little more. Maybe the return on investment is also over 20%. So now we went from 11 pages to 6 pages, and maybe this is a lot easier to go through. It's not easy to go through thousands and thousands of stocks. It is much easier to go through maybe 50 to 100 that meet these criteria that you're looking for. So I think it's pretty fun. And although when you go into an individual stock, it maybe doesn't have a plethora of information, that's sometimes not what you need when you're just doing quick research about what looks interesting. So it's a great way to just spot check everything. Now, let's talk about the next resource, and this one's a little different. This one is called just worldgovernmentbonds.com, and it shows the rates of sovereign CDs as well as credit ratings for countries, which countries have inverted yield curves, what are the central bank rates in certain countries. This is very useful if you're investing internationally and if you're doing models like, for example, discounted cash flow, where you need a risk-free rate. You need a rate to compare your investment to, right? So you can always look at the 5-year credit default swaps, right, which show you sort of the country risk. And also you can look at things such as the ratings of certain countries to also adjust risk. You can look at the central bank rates also, and just sort of have a really good idea of how risky a country is based on that. You can see their S&P rating, you can see their 5-year credit default swap rates. So yeah, this will help you sort of triangulate just how risky a country should be and how you can account that in your calculations, The next resource is going to be, this is really 2 resources. The first one is Moody's, and the next one is Fitch. And they are both rating agencies that rate the credit worthiness of countries and companies. And really, what you can do here when you go to the Moody's website is that you can go to reports and insights, and you can go to places such as ratings actions, right? Which, for example, it'll show you that Moody's lately affirmed the certain credit rating of Hungary, So you can look at these things that have happened, but you can also look at different things. You can look at sovereign bonds, but you can also look at US public finance and other kinds of stuff. So you can really drill down there depending on what you like, and you can sign up for their mailing list and get the reports. Same goes for Fitch. I think they actually have some really cool stuff in their latest research. So it'll show you Fitch updates on bank rating criteria, or things that dampen the third quarter of 23 Canadian bank earnings. So these are the sorts of things that are really good to just stay on top of, right? And to understand. These ratings agencies publish information pretty much every day. So if you want to be up to date with sort of this creditworthiness side of things, but also a little bit with the deep financial analysis and sentiment, maybe signing up for the mailing lists of these credit agencies or just keeping up with their publications could be really useful. Likewise, if you want to keep up with something more at the macro level, there's the International Monetary Fund. And I specifically also want to draw attention to the publication section and the country reports here. You can sign up for their mailing list to receive country reports. But here, for example, there's an assessment of financial stability in Colombia or the Lao People's Republic. And here, if you want to invest in a country, but you don't really know about it, this is a great place to go because it will talk about the risks, it will talk about the expected growth, and it will talk about many, many other metrics that I think are wonderful to know about. So yeah, the International Monetary Fund, you can also sign up for a mailing list to just receive the country reports in your email, and you can sign up for certain countries that you care about. So it's very important to do this if you don't know that much about the macro things, the macro side of things, and you want to learn more. Now, this last resource is simply, I'm going to give you two resources. I know sometimes it's a little difficult to find the data for the long term for certain stocks. So for example, if you want to find 10 years worth of data, it can be a little difficult, and sites like Yahoo Finance or Seeking Alpha usually lock that data behind a paid membership. So here's two websites where you can see this. One of them is markets.sh. And if we look at, for example, Apple, you can see if you go to the financials that there's 10 years worth of financial history here from September of 2012 to September of 2022. And you just can see the growth here, and it includes the growth rates or contraction rates of everything, of every single value here, which I think is wonderful to include it by default, so you don't have to do that math yourself. So it does that for the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement. You can even transport it to an Excel sheet, which I think is wonderful as well. And then a similar website that does that is ROIC.ai. And we can just go into Apple here and into financials, for example. And it's the same deal. They do have some premium features, such as showing you quarterly data and the trailing 12-month data. But at the same time, here there's data since 2008 all the way till 2022, and that data is just completely free, So, and this can be everything, and they really break it down, right? Look at how they break down gross profit, and you can open and close a lot of these things. So yeah, I think both of these websites are pretty wonderful if you don't want to pay for traditional services such as Yahoo Finance or Seeking Alpha, but do want a little bit more of historical financial data. Now, note that this should not replace reading a 10K. If you're looking into Apple, maybe you want a lot of historical data very quickly because you need sort of that historical overview. But at the same time, when you start looking at 2022 or projecting to the future, you should go and read the 10K and just understand the state of the business right now and why it is that way and the insights that the company has and the accounting team and the CEO, etc. So yeah, but here I think both of these resources provide a really good historical overview, as well as having a few other things, like for example, this shows insider buys and sells, or this one will show a lot of ratios with a lot of detail. So, and a lot of ratios over the years, which I think is really cool. So if you really care about certain things, like for example, return on equity over the years, you can really track this here. This is especially important, for example, if you're investing in banks, and return on equity is a metric that you're always looking at. So that's it for the list today, but I hope you got at least one interesting tool out of it that can help you with your research in the stock market. If you have any questions about it, or if you have any tools that you use that you want to share with us, please comment down below. And if you want more videos like this, well, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. It really helps me out, and it lets you know when I publish new videos. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.